Hi, I'm Kirk Dando. Someone recently asked me the questions, what are some of the best ways that I have seen when it comes to really thinking about how do you manage resistance to change? Well, I really appreciate this question. I think all of us at some point in our lives, whether we're leading a family or we're leading something at church, maybe it's a small team or it's just maybe it's a massive organization, we all get and understand that change is going to happen. And when change happens, there's going to be some level of resistance to that change, even when the change is welcomed. So I want to share with you three very simple but very, very powerful ways that I have seen when it comes to really thinking about and managing the resistance to change. The first one is you have to really think about what are the barriers? What are the things that really stand in the way of us creating the change that we want or that we need? So once we can address those barriers, we have the best opportunity to really impact the change that's needed. The first one that I've seen is we've really got to think about change does not happen or cannot start happening until we remove the excuses. Every time there's a lot of change, there's a lot of excuses. And so part of what we have to do is understand how to um, address, dismiss those excuses. I say that excuses are like drugs. Think about it for a second. Excuses are like drugs. They're easy to get our hands on and they're easy to use. They become very addictive, habit forming. We become used to using them. And, the funny thing is everyone else can see that we're using them, but doesn't necessarily want to call us on it unless we get to an extreme of using them. And then we come to the second point where there's a crisis. There's really two reasons that any of us change, any organization change, any of us change. And the two reasons are either you have a crisis and now you're ready for change, or you create a crisis. Now, no one wants to wake up and create a crisis, and I'm not talking about creating a lot of drama inside of your organization or inside of your family. But think about it for a second: is life happens, and there's difficulties that come with that. And during those times, we have crises. Sometimes they're major and very painful, and sometimes they're just minor annoyances. Either way, what I tell people is never ever let a good crisis go to waste. And what I mean by that is really bringing up point number two is we know that life is going to happen. Just like life is going to happen, change is going to happen. Think about it, in a family, children are born. Sometimes we lose a job. Sometimes we lose the job and go somewhere else. We move to a different city. Families expand and contract. Teams, oftentimes there's new people on the team, or there's people leaving the team, or we're trying to, just form a team and really work on creating a high performance team. And what happens in the evolution of that process inside of organizations, there's definite change. There's never ever been an organization whose growth was smooth and linear and up to the right. It just doesn't happen. Look at the turnover in the Fortune 500. So we all know that change is going to happen all around us in all parts of our lives. However, we've got to have a growth mentality. I think oftentimes that we miss the opportunity to grow, to really evolve as individuals, to involve our team and our organizations when we have these opportunities of change that are coming and there's so much resistance to those things. If we can just shift our paradigm and think about it, this is an opportunity to grow in these opportunities. Because what I tell people is the road to heaven does go through hell. It's hard. Change is going to happen. But it's your choice if it's a day trip or a daily trip. How you think about change, what you do in those times, the decisions that you make will determine if it's a day trip or a daily trip. So the other part that I have people think about is what I call P to the 3. And what each of those P's stands for, the first one is you've got to have a plan. There's got to be a plan of where we're going. People can operate at a high level. We can all operate at a high level without absolute certainty. But we really struggle and become somewhat undone when we don't have clarity. What a plan does is gives us that clarity. There's got to be an end. There's got to be a middle. And there's got to be a beginning. So, at the end, that's the 50,000 foot. That's, you've heard the saying, start with the end in mind. So where is it that we're going at a high level? What are the goals? You need to provide the inspiration of the brightness of what it's going to look like when we arrive there, as well as the darkness of what it'll look like if we don't. I'm not talking about creating drama and necessarily fear, but I'm talking about just reality, ground truth reality of what does it look like. This is 25,000 feet. This is really describing the journey, the middle. What's it going to look like? What are the stops along the way that we should be seeing? What are the things that we should be achieving? What's the progress look like? And then this is the ground level. You know, this is starting today. What are the things that we're going to start doing differently, thinking about differently? What are the actions that we're going to take? Who's going to be accountable for delivering on those actions and responsible for making sure that they're done well? Well, this encapsulated all together is really the vision of what it's going to take for us to create this change and what's needed there. The second P is we've got to be patient. And this is sometimes one of the hardest things as a leader is to just have that patience, to understand that sometimes this massive change or even minor change takes time. I would encourage you to get other mentors or advisors that have been there, that have walked a mile in your shoes, that can help normalize the journey and help you keep your sanity during these times. But that's why this plan becomes so important, because in those moments when we are becoming frustrated and we're starting to wonder if we're going to get this done, our plan is a measurable tool that gives us hope. Now, I believe that hope is not a strategy, but I do believe that we need hope, especially in times of change. You know, one of the ways that can do this is having a plan. Now, we know it's not a straight line, a linear just path to where it is we want to go. It's going to meander, but if we can measure the progress and discuss it and understand that and not get wrapped in the excuses and not let more crises happen, the hope starts to rise. And in those times, which brings us to the third P, is we've got to be persistent. Your team depends upon you to have absolute commitment, absolute resolve, not just compliance, but commitment to what it is, the outcomes that are happening. For you to be real and authentic in those times when things didn't work out like we wanted to or expected, but that we are still on task here. That there may be things along the journey that we didn't anticipate, couldn't anticipate, but we are still clear about where it is we're going and why we're getting there. You've got to be able to state and restate the goal. You've got your team and everyone else, your family, whoever, has got to see that you've got a backbone and that you're doing this. You're not going to do it, despite them. You're not going to do it without them, but we are going to get there. And along that journey, some people may opt out. Obviously, in a family, that's not necessarily a choice, but inside of organizations, sometimes people opt out because they don't want to go on the journey, and that's okay. However, what's not okay is try to make the journey so it fits every single person, because what ends up happening is if you aim at nothing, you hit your target every single time. So think about it. What are you going to do the next time that you are called upon, or that maybe you're not even called upon, but you're put in a position where you need to lead through and manage change and the resistance that comes with change? Will you have a growth mentality and make that choice, or will you have a victim mentality? Will you make it a day trip, or will you make it a daily trip? You've got what it takes. You don't need another book or another how-to checklist. It's already inside you. I guarantee you, I've seen it too many times. You just need to think about it a little bit differently. That's why I provided these 3 powerful but simple tools to just think about and approach it a little bit differently. So the next time you're called on change, you're going to be the one that leads your team through that, leads your family through that, leads people through a situation. You'll be better for it. They'll be better for it. I thank you for taking the time to listen. If you have a question for me, whether it's about anything I've discussed today, or you just have another question about leadership or growth, I'd encourage you to please leave that in the comments below, or you can go to kirkdando.com and leave it there, and I'll answer it on an upcoming video. I hope you have a blessed day. Thank you.